Now is Terrell County, Texas Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland. Sheriff, good morning to you. We just saw, to Nate Foy's report there, well over 100 migrants break through razor wire, knock down guards and cross into Texas. What more or what should be done to keep them out?
Hey, good morning, and thank you for having me. I'll tell you what we just saw is shameful, and it's shameful on this administration. Look, I spent 26 years with the United States Border Patrol, and I worked under this administration and the prior four, and I can tell you we've never seen anything like this. We continue to see it ramp up to this point. What's next? And I'll tell you, those prior four administrations, both Republican and Democrat, never allowed something like this to go. So my point there is this administration has completely failed us at the border, completely failed us here in my county of Terrell.
In fact, you recently called out Biden for what you called abandoning the U.S.-Mexico border. You say it's become more like the U.S. world border. What do you mean by that, and what action do you want the administration to take?
You know, and he abandoned us over three years ago. He inherited the most safest and secure border that we'd ever had. I was still working at that time, and I'll tell you, we saw low numbers of apprehensions and entries. But the reason I say it's the U.S. world border, because so many countries throughout the world are exploiting the U.S.-Mexico border to make their entry into the United States. And the reason they're coming is because this administration, again, and I don't just use this as a talking point. You know, I don't get talking points from the Department of Homeland Security or from the state of Texas. I make my own from experience. This administration, before it took office in the presidential debates of 2019 on Univision, President Biden said he would welcome asylum seekers. That's the direct result of what we're seeing. But I'll tell you, we have a governor that is fighting back. He's filling the gaps that this administration has made. And we're seeing results of his work, because now we're starting to see activity flow towards Arizona and California.
And you know what, Sheriff? It's such a security issue. We don't know who these people are, where they've come from, and what their intentions are. It's just ludicrous.
100%. And you know, in that piece that we watched before coming on air, you know, the Venezuelans, they're not accepting them back in their country. We have no idea who these people are. We don't know if they were criminals. We don't know if they were in prisons and they've been let out. Very similar to what we saw in the early 80s with the Mariano boat lifts out of Cuba. The same exact thing. We will be dealing with this problem for decades. We're still dealing with the Cuban crisis. We're going to be dealing with not just Venezuela, but the other countries that are sending their people to the United States.
And you know, Sheriff, what makes this ironic about all of this, it was okay until migrants were shipped to blue-run states like, you know, Illinois, New York, California. Then all of a sudden, this issue was right on their doorstep. And then they started, you know, telling us a different story. How can this happen? This is outrageous. Well, you know what? This is what Texas and Arizona and California have been going through for years.
Yes, sir, you're exactly right. And to be quite honest with you, those cities didn't make a stink about it until Governor Abbott started sending them to those sanctuary cities. But let me tell you what, the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, they were already sending people to those locations. You know, my hat's off to the governor for continuing to send busloads throughout the United States. And I think we should expand it to more cities and to more states.
Yep. It's a national problem for sure. Sheriff Thaddeus Cleveland. Sheriff, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate your input. You're right there on the battle lines. We do appreciate it. All right.
Thank you. God bless.